Hello guys, welcome to, how do we call it? Well,
Unnamed special episode.
we don't have still a name, so guys, if you have any idea, send us in the comments. But we are here in the center of Rome, I would say the north of Rome. And this is important because if you don't know very well Rome, the north of Rome is where Lazio fans are. Paioli, Prati, Flaminio, and we are in the north. South is where Roma fans are, Testaccio, Leone, etc. So we are in a bar in Prati, so Piazza Mazzini just 2 meters there. Piazza Banzizza is 2 minutes walk from there. When I was younger, I would collect my friends there and go to the stadium walking. So it brings me back a lot of memories. But we're here enjoying a cappuccino with my friend Alistair.
Someone's parked a Roma-coloured car behind us now.
Yeah, we did it on purpose just to bring a little bit of atmosphere. We're going to talk about the derby, but before Alistair, we have to talk about the match of yesterday, right? Torino-Lazio, a draw. I think we can be happy about the point, but what about the performance?
Do we have to talk about it?
Well, then, let's start from the starting 11, because I think there were huge surprises there, right? No one expected that starting 11, big rotation, and in particular, no one expected Raul starting.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a big talking point so far for us with Sarri, with the determination to stick with the same team more or less most weeks. So, yeah, it was interesting. I think it probably got to a point where he felt like he had to freshen it up because of how many games we've just had. But Raul, probably just because of the Zaccagni injury, I guess. But big opportunity for him. It was a bit of a shame in the end that it didn't quite work out, I guess. But I don't think we can really place any responsibility on Raul performance because, wow, I mean, I think that was the worst Lazio we've seen this season. There are very few positives to take from the overall performance.
Well, one thing that we have to say is that Torino is very physical this year, and that's probably the biggest weakness Raul has. At the beginning, he had a couple of good chances, and you can see his talent. But then, when the physicality came out of Torino, Lazio really struggled, and Raul was one of them. I would say one of the most positive things is Akpa Pro and Cataldi. They played well. Now, obviously, bringing in Akpa Pro means Milinkovic Savic didn't start. So, I think Lazio lacked a little bit of talent there in the midfield. And you can see it that Torino take advantage about that.
Well, you say that, but I still think the biggest problem is that we're not seeing the best from Alberto and Milinkovic Savic. And I think we both felt that with Sarri coming in, there was a real opportunity there for that midfield to be the greatest strength in this team, and those two players in particular, to enjoy Sarri ball, to enjoy a more technical style of play, to really kind of get the best out of them. But so far, I think that's been the biggest disappointment of the season, really, has been that we haven't got that. And you need, in these tough moments, Alberto and Milinkovic to take a grip of that midfield. And, well, obviously Milinkovic didn't start yesterday, but Alberto in particular, I thought was a big disappointment. I mean, I think we've been able to say so far each game you've kind of seen incremental steps, not huge steps, but maybe like one thing after another where either the defensive structure is better or they look a bit more well connected as a team. But yesterday, I don't think we can really say that about any of it. I think Martuscello said after the game he thought defensively he thought it was an improvement, but was it? I mean, I think they had something like 16 shots in that game. They could have scored far more than one goal if it wasn't for Reina.
Let's go back to Luis Alberto, because one of the questions that a lot of fans are saying, even yesterday on the TV here in Italy, they said, Luis Alberto is not fitted for the 4-3 of Sarri. I don't think that's the question. I think Luis Alberto can play in different situations. I think the problem is he's not 100% fit. He needs to understand that he has to move to create the space. It's different. He doesn't have to do like with Inzaghi, go back and get the ball from the defense. He has to move, create space. But I believe he can definitely play in the 4-3 of Sarri. Do you agree with me?
I mean, he should be able to. He's got all the talent. He's got all the abilities that you really need from him to do that. I mean, he's not explosive, No one in that midfield is really explosive in the way that they'll kind of carry it, break the lines box to box, which maybe you kind of feel is lacking a bit from that midfield at the moment because there just seem to be such big gaps between all the the three areas of the pitch, between the defence, midfield and attack, it just feels like they're not really connecting very well. And the midfield is obviously the key to that. And Alberto, I don't know, do you feel like there's any resistance on Alberto's part? Because he was so well established in the Inzaghi system, by that point they could do it with his eyes closed. But let's not forget that it did get to a point with Alberto in Inzaghi's previous system where Alberto was playing up top alongside Immobile, and everyone worked him out, and so he had to make a change. He had to bring him further back in the pitch to give him a bit more space, a bit more time on the ball, and that was really successful. So does Sarri have to rethink how he uses Alberto to find a way of playing him maybe deeper, or finding a way of getting him more time on the ball, more space, or is that up to Alberto himself?
I think it's up to Alberto. They asked Martuscello yesterday the question is, are you thinking about changing, maybe switching to a 4-3-1-2? Because yesterday, when Murici came in, Lazio switched to a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
So completely different. So the question was, are you thinking of changing? And he said, A, there's no time. Till the international break, there is really no time. We're playing every 2 days, so it's complicated. B, we think we have the players for the 4-3. And again, I think it's up to the to the physical condition of Luis Alberto. We don't have a very dynamic midfield anyway, with Milinkovic Savic, Luis Alberto, and Leiva. That's why with Cataldi in, there's a big difference. Akpa Pro definitely helps. But obviously, I think Luis Alberto has to improve, find the condition. And I don't think he has resistance because, when was it? Against Spezia, he provided 5 assists, he had a great match. So I think it's just mentally and physically. The other thing very important that Ciro Immobile said after the match is that the players are a little bit too scared. If you go and watch the match again or watch the past 3 matches, you will see that Ciro Immobile is very often alone against all the entire defense of the opposite team. Felipe Anderson is way too back, and obviously Raul Moro. And so he struggled because he's 1 against 4 every time.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like there's so many moments where whoever's on the ball is too isolated.
Yeah.
And I remember early in the first half yesterday, Anderson made that amazing break down the right wing where he beat 2 defenders to find space. And that's why he's in the team, right? He's to create those opportunities for himself. And he makes it all the way to the byline, and there's no one really offering. Immobile is kind of occupying the defenders to create space for the others, but you need Moro, you need Alberto to be freeing themselves up, whether it's an offer on the edge of the box where the one's going to the back post, and both of them were kind of hiding, and it didn't lead to anything. And yeah, I think again, it's just, I feel like the distances between all the players need shortening. I mean, is that too simple a way of looking at it? It's just, it seems like whoever's on the ball is always crowded out by
the only difference, I think, is Pedro. Every time Pedro come in, he moves a lot.
Yeah.
We saw him coming in. Have courage of asking the ball. While I get the impression sometimes Felipe Anderson and yesterday Raul Moro when he played were a little bit playing hide and seek. Well, if you have to pass me the ball, do it. But I would prefer another. Instead, with Pedro, he was coming in, creating spaces on the wings, demanding the ball, creating chances, spaces, movement. That's what the winger has to do. And
yeah.
I think it's mentally they're a little bit concerned because Lazio concede goal every single match. So Felipe Anderson, in my mind, is thinking, okay, yeah, I have to attack, but let's not forget that I have to give a hand to my defense as well. And
I think, yeah, because if you think about it, I mean, Inzaghi's system was very structured actually, in the sense that the wing backs would be wing backs, right? You stay on your wing, and they don't really come in field an awful lot unless it was Marasic or Lulic because they're right-footed and they end up coming in. And the strikers kind of knew where they're doing. The midfielders kind of stayed, push forward, stayed back, whatever. Whereas this system, I think it does require a bit more of that fluency that you're talking about. And I think that's why, like you say, Pedro stands out because he's done this before, he understands this. And that is how you create those passing triangles, how you open up teams. You need that quickness of thought, but you need to it is the movement. You need to stretch these defences more, and if you just have your wingers staying on the wing, that's not going to get us anywhere because there's one man in the box. Again, I said this last week before. I think we need Milinkovic pushing up more. Murici made a good impact though when he came on. Food for thought. But
quickness of thought, you said, and Martuscello said pretty much the same thing after the match. He said one of the problem is that movements doesn't come automatic. They have to think, and if you think, then you lose that second that costs you the right movement, the right pass, the defender moves in the right direction because you were a second late. This is probably the biggest problem we're facing, and from outside you cannot understand it because you just see the ball moving late or the player not moving in time, and you think that's a mistake. It's simply because it's not automatic. He has to think, okay, I have to go there, and time he thinks, it's already too late. So that's one of the biggest issue I think the players are facing. And you can see that Pedro is one of the best players yesterday. Same thing Isai, because we didn't mention, I thought Isai yesterday had a great match. Isai is another player who knows Sarri very well. So that's probably the reason why these players are probably the best on the pitch at the moment, and the others are struggling.
You know who else had a great match yesterday?
I don't want to say
Serie A's goalkeeper of the year, Pepe Reina.
Yeah, we have to say
You have to give him credit where it's
Absolutely.
due. And yesterday, we don't get a point if it's not for Pepe Reina.
we have to say something. He missed a couple of passages. He did two very bad passages that could cost, but he made a couple of great saves. One in the first half. Let's not forget the one in the first half when we were still 0-0. And then immediately after Torino scored, he made an unbelievable save, and that the match would be over there. So very well done by Pepe Reina. Thank you again. And let's talk about Murici as well, right? Because when he came in, Lazio started playing better again. I don't know you, I was surprised to see Lazio switching to a 4-4-2. I thought Murici would come in, Ciro would come out. Akpa Pro was the player who got subbed. I was surprised because I thought he was still playing well, but it changed the match. And Murici made an unbelievable pass to Immobile, who missed that, but then provided the penalty. So very well done.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think Ciro does better when he has someone to play off, right? I mean, this is an obvious thing to say because it's what we've been seeing for the last 5 years with Inzaghi, whether it's been with Correa or Alberto or whoever. But Caicedo was really good at that as well, actually being the guy who holds the ball up, who knows how to play those quick passes. Caicedo loved that little first time backheel kind of pass to try and catch defences out. It worked maybe one time every 10, but he loved trying it. God, I miss Caicedo.
I mean, guys, when was 90 minutes? Were you hoping to see Caicedo come in?
I know.
I mean,
it's still these early moments of the season. You almost kind of forget he's not there anymore, and you have to grieve.
but Murici did a little bit the Caicedo job,
Yeah,
right?
no, exactly, and yeah. So I think it is food for thought because it was an improvement. I mean, you also have to put it down perhaps to a bit of desperation where you're kind of in it's frustrating that you're in the final 5 minutes of the game and suddenly the team seem to wake up and they're like, hang on a second, we're losing 1-0 to Torino here, we need to score a goal, and the balls are being poured forward, the numbers are going forward, they're putting more pressure on the Torino defence, and I think that improved intensity will always come towards the end of the match anyway if you're not getting the result you want, but I just think there was a real lack of intensity the rest of the time. I don't know whether it's leadership or what it is, but just felt like you need somebody there to be changing things, to be like recognising the problem and trying to sort it out. But Torino, to be fair, are a much better team than they were last season.
Juric is a great manager, and you can see it already. Two things, Alison. The first one is going back to Cagliari, where Murici was warming up. We scored the equalizer, and Murici didn't come in. Do you think if we brought in Murici, we could have won against Cagliari? And the second thing is when Milinkovic Savic came in the second half, we had 10-15 minutes playing really great football, and then Milinkovic Savic disappeared without the rest of the team. That's a concerning thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I already said this last week. The Cagliari thing, maybe you don't want to read too much into one game from their game against Genoa, but the fact that they did concede so many headers in one match, you did think, well, surely this is made for Murici, and clearly having a big physical presence is something that makes that team nervous. So it was a bit of a surprise to see the smallest guy in the Lazio team, Moro, come on instead of Murici in that match. But we can't say we win that game if Murici comes on. I mean, I just think he needs more opportunities. And like we already said last week, that we don't agree with the fact that the Curva's booing his name 4 matches. But the only way he's going to change anyone's mind about that is to be coming on and making a difference.
Like he did yesterday.
And
Right.
but also applying himself and showing the right attitude. I think that was a big part of how Caicedo turned everyone around, was
Yeah.
his, the kind of dignified way in which he responded to that.
And you can say something about Mauricio. Maybe he's not perfect, maybe he does mistakes, but you can see that he's coming in willing to fight on every single ball. So that drives me crazy, because with a player like that, I don't understand why fans booing, because you can see that he's giving everything. He's been unlucky for me last year, and you're seeing that this year is much different. Before switching to the derby, I think we have to talk about Luis Felipe, because we said it already against Cagliari. I thought yesterday he had another terrible match. First half, he made a couple of terrible mistakes that could cost us the match. Same thing in the second half. There were rumors that he could rest yesterday and Patrick could start. Maybe it would have been the good idea, because I don't recognize him anymore.
Well, maybe you've kind of answered your own point there, because if the alternative is starting Patrick, I mean, he seems to have, usurped the likes of Dennis Avro in the pecking order in this squad, but I still don't think he's exactly a player who will instill amazing confidence in Sarri. He's not really... Has he played? Has he started the match yet,
Patrick, yes. Against Spezia, I think.
Spezia, okay.
Well, Luis Felipe was injured there, so there weren't very many options, but he still played.
And yeah, I guess Felipe, like everyone else, needs to learn to adapt,
Yeah.
needs time to settle, and he's, as we always say, a player who's had a lot of injuries before, so he needs a kind of consistency of game time. I wasn't massively concerned by him yesterday. I didn't think he was, a player to...
You know what's the problem? He's making mistakes. He's not on the wrong position, etc. He makes mistakes. Like in the first half, I remember he made a short pass to Reina, and Reina was quick enough to anticipate, I think, Sarabia. Otherwise, Sarabia was in front of the goalkeeper and would have scored easily. So I think, lack of concentration, I cannot believe it. Maybe he's thinking too much, and this cost him bad mistakes. But yeah, maybe he's too sure of being the starting player now. I don't know, but going to the derby, I'm really concerned.
Yeah, well, I think we, at this stage, just have to hope that it's one of these things where the team who's out of form ends up being the team who wins the game, because I think there's little doubt about which team is the form team here.
The favourite, yes, Roma, yes, definitely.
Roma have won 7 games out of 8, I think, or 6 out of 7, I can remember, under Mourinho. I was covering their match last night for work, and I thought, yeah, not for pleasure.
No, not sure about that.
And yeah, they started really well, but massive drop off in the second half. And we were talking about this before we started a little bit, but possibly tiredness, unwillingness to rotate. There are a few things there. I don't think that they're exactly the finished article. They're obviously in good form, but they've lost Pellegrino, who's been their best player so far this season, because he'll be suspended for getting a second yellow, which was pretty harsh. Yeah, I don't think this is a closed book of a derby. I don't think it's quite that desperate, but I think for sure Lazio need to show great improvement on what we saw last night.
I would say that the most positive thing is that you're not going to the match. So we have a chance. This is probably the biggest news.
Yeah.
But apart from that...
Thank Lazio for that.
Thank you, Lazio. But apart from that, I think the last 2 matches are concerning for me. I think we have improved on the defense, but we are struggling to create chances. And one thing you have to say of Mourinho, he's very good when he has to defend and counterattack. So that's where I'm a little bit concerned. I always said this derby is coming too early for Lazio to be Sarri ball, to be ready to Sarri. The next one will be much different, I hope.
Yeah, well, who knows? I mean, I don't know if I buy the idea that we've improved an awful lot in defence. I mean, I think we've perhaps improved a bit, kind of structurally, but if you think about the fact we've conceded 3 goals in 2 games against Torino and Cagliari, and beyond that, loads of shots,
Yeah.
If you look at the stats in those games, the number of opportunities the opposition had is too high. It really is too high. So I'm not totally convinced that there's been a massive improvement there. Roma have been surprisingly attack-minded under Mourinho. Tammy Abraham's looking like a great signing. They've got Zaniolo there. They've got Mkhitaryan there. They've got a lot of players who can hurt Lazio. What I'm really hoping for is Pedro to roll up his sleeves and pull out the game of his life, because we saw last year that he can do it in a derby for the wrong team, so hopefully this time for the right team.
This reminds me one thing I forgot to mention. I was astonished that Brecalo didn't score.
Yeah.
I
So you think the curse extends to players who could have potentially joined Lazio?
Yeah, I mean, Lazio has plenty of curse, so I think that probably the thing where Lazio improved is against Milan. The team was wide. There was 20 meters between defender and midfielder. In the last two matches, we didn't see that. The team is closer, right? There's not that 10 meters gap between defense and midfield. So that's much better. But still, I mean, in the first goal of Torino, in the only goal of Torino, there was a mistake there. There's plenty of room to improve. Let's finish with the positive side.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the attacking side of things is just, it's a bit strange. Well, I guess you have to factor in the level of opposition, but if you think about where we were, what we were talking about after the opening 2 games of the season, 9 goals in 2 games, and you're thinking, wow, this is Sarri, this is attacking football, this is what everyone's been waiting for. And I don't know, do you think the international break came at a bad time? Do you think that just interrupted things a bit, or is it simply just the level of opposition?
No, I think more the international break, the Milan match. That, for me...
Ciro said something like that.
Yeah, I think that affected their confidence. I thought the team was encouraged by the 2 performances. And people talk about Empoli. Empoli is a good team. Empoli won again. They're playing great football. They are not a bad team. But I think Milan's match ruined the confidence of this team. They lost the confidence. They lost the momentum more than the international break. So the team is scared now. The team is uncertain of the movement they have to do. You have to play with confidence. This is one of the secrets of Inzaghi's team as well. And Lazio has to get this confidence back. And, the derby could be the perfect moment, right? If you win there, you get the confidence back and, you can improve from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit cheesy and cliche, but I think it does make a difference. And if the team, especially if the teams, like Ciro said, if the heads dropped a bit after the Milan game, that I imagine that's kind of a result of thinking, well, what's going on? This is a team we've been on a level with, we've been beating, we've been competing with the last few years, and now there was this huge distance between them, that day at least. So if Lazio can, take on another team who are up there in terms of the top 4 discussion and beat them, and it's a derby, I think just the confidence that gives you is massive. And you look at this squad and you think, well, there's so many players in this team who require confidence to be at their best. I mean, Chiro probably top amongst all of them, but new signings as well, and just the general faith in the new project and the faith in their ability to take on these messages, because we're hearing it every single game, and it's going to get really tiring for the players now that every match it's, how's the transition going to Sarri? How's taking on the new tactics? And if they can actually just change the discussion a bit and talk about something else.
And then there's the other thing that Martuscello said yesterday. Now the alarms as well. I hope it's not too much noisy. Martuscello said, in training, we're doing everything right. Now we have to move what we're doing perfectly in training in the match, and that's not easy. But, this brings me the confidence that the team is understanding and can do these things. They simply have to get confidence and do it in a match. I think if they are able to do it once, then things will improve from there. Obviously, there's not much time because we're playing Sunday, then Thursday there's another match, then there's another match Sunday, and then I think there is the international break. So you don't have that much time to train.
And Sarri will be back. How much of a difference do you think that has made, if any, the last 2 games?
I think it has made. He's not a motivator, but obviously from the bench you can change things easier and faster than from the stands.
Although he's probably enjoyed a couple of matches where he can smoke while he watches.
Really? Yes, definitely. Guys, I think we can wrap it up here. Tell us in the comments if you love this show, and obviously if you have a name for this show. I hope the noise wasn't too much, but this is Rome, guys, so you have to get used to it. Thank you again for listening.
Ciao.